The Uber driver switched to Arabic on his phone, and I understood every word he said about me. I ordered the Uber from the airport terminal at 11 at night after my flight from Dubai got delayed by 4 hours. The app said my driver's name was Kareem Hassan, 5-star rating, silver Toyota Corolla. When the car pulled up, I threw my carry-on in the back seat and climbed in front, too tired to care about the usual passenger-driver distance. Kareem looked to be in his late 40s with graying hair at his temples and the kind of weathered face that suggested he'd lived through things most people only read about. He greeted me in English with a thick accent and asked if I wanted any specific route to my hotel downtown. I said whatever was fastest because I just wanted to shower and sleep after 16 hours of travel. We pulled away from the terminal and merged onto the highway, and I leaned my head against the window watching the city lights blur past. That's when his phone rang. He answered it on the car's Bluetooth system and immediately switched to Arabic. I kept my eyes on the window and my expression neutral because nobody in America knew I spoke Arabic fluently. Not my colleagues at the consulting firm, not my friends, not even my family. I'd spent 3 years working for a defense contractor in Jordan doing translation work for military intelligence before I got tired of the moral complexity and switched to corporate consulting. The work had required a security clearance and a lot of non-disclosure agreements, and when I left, I decided to leave that whole part of my life behind. I never mentioned my language skills on my resume or in conversation. It was easier to just be another white guy in a suit who'd never lived anywhere interesting. So when Kareem started speaking Arabic to whoever was on the phone, he had no reason to think I'd understand every single word. The conversation started normally enough. The person on the other end asked how his night was going, and Kareem complained about airport traffic and cheap passengers who didn't tip. Then the other voice said something that made my blood run cold. He said in Arabic, "Did you pick up the consultant yet? The one from the Jordan flight?" Kareem responded, "Yes, he's in my car right now. Looks exactly like the photo they sent. Blonde hair, blue eyes, about 30 years old. He's half asleep." I kept my face pressed against the window, but every muscle in my body had gone tense. Someone had sent Kareem my photo. Someone knew I was coming home tonight and had coordinated to make sure he was my driver. The voice on the phone continued, "Good, take him to the warehouse on Riverside instead of the hotel. We need to ask him some questions about his time in Jordan, about who he worked for and what he knows." My mind was racing, but I forced myself to stay completely still, to keep breathing normally, to give no indication I understood. Kareem said, "What if he resists? What if he realizes we're not going to his hotel?" The voice replied, "He won't realize until it's too late. By the time he figures it out, you'll already be at the warehouse. Mahmoud and his guys will be waiting. They'll handle it from there." Kareem asked, "And after they question him?" There was a pause before the voice said, "That depends on what he knows and whether he's willing to cooperate. If he's smart, he'll tell them everything. If not." The sentence hung unfinished, but the implication was clear. I was being driven to a secondary location where people would be waiting to interrogate me about my work in Jordan, and if I didn't cooperate, I wouldn't be leaving that warehouse alive. I needed to think fast, but carefully. If I suddenly asked Kareem to pull over or change destination, he'd know something was wrong. If I tried to jump out of a moving car on the highway, I'd probably get killed. I needed to buy time and figure out who these people were and what they wanted from me. The voice on the phone was still talking, giving Kareem specific directions to the warehouse. He said, "Take exit 9 off the highway, then go left on Industrial Boulevard. The warehouse is the third building on the right, gray metal siding. Flash your headlights twice when you pull up so Mahmoud knows it's you." Kareem confirmed the directions, and the call ended. We drove in silence for another minute before Kareem said in English, "So, you have business in the city? You look like a businessman." I forced myself to respond casually, even though my heart was hammering against my ribs. "Yeah, just consulting work. Nothing too exciting." He nodded and turned on the radio to some pop station, probably to fill the awkward silence. I pulled out my phone and opened my text messages, but my hands were shaking slightly. I needed to contact someone, but I couldn't be obvious about it. If Kareem saw me frantically texting, he might realize I knew something was wrong. I opened a message thread with my colleague Michael and typed very slowly, trying to look like someone casually checking their phone. "Flight landed. Weird situation. Might need help. We'll explain later." I hit send and watched the message turn from sending to delivered. Michael wouldn't see it until morning probably, but at least there'd be some record if I disappeared. I glanced at the GPS on Kareem's dashboard and saw we were still 20 minutes from downtown, but we weren't headed toward my hotel according to the route displayed. We were heading toward the industrial district on the east side. Exit 9 was coming up in 5 miles. I needed a plan right now. If you want to know what happened next, click the link below or go to my channel.